Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamaya Namami Chinmayam Devam Satguru Brahma Vidaram. Okay, so let us read Bhaja Govindam. We'll read verses 1, 2, 3. That's what we covered last time. We'll review a little bit and then we'll move on. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. Mudhajahi dhanagamatrishnam Kuru satbuddhim manasi vitrishnam Yallabhase nijakarmopatam Dittam tena vinodaya chittam Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Naristanabharanabhidesham Drishtva magamohavesham Etanmam savasadi vikaram Manasi vichintaya varam varam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. So in the first 3 verses, what we saw was the first one where Adi Shankaracharya was criticizing secular knowledge. Not knowledge per se, but secular knowledge as the goal of life. So for some people, their whole goal of life is to study a specific subject or specific topic or do so much research and bring it out. And Adi Shankaracharya says it's fine to do this, but that's not the ultimate goal of life. The second verse, Adi Shankaracharya criticizes wealth. Not wealth per se, but wealth as the goal of life. That wealth is supposed to be used to perform dharma. And that dharma is to be done for moksha or liberation. But what happens is when we earn wealth, we forget about dharma. We forget about any dharmic needs and we engage in pure pleasure. And when we engage in pure pleasure, we forget moksha. There is no liberation. There's no thought of even liberation because all that wealth is used for the pursuit of pleasure. Somebody might ask, but can't I have a good time in life? Of course you can have a good time as long as it's in the realm of dharma. Whenever we stick to dharma, dharma is a means to take us to moksha, which is the goal of life. So our basis must always be dharma. Even our pursuit for pleasure must always be dharmic. That's the only way it will keep our minds calm. When a person practices dharma, they are at peace. And that peace will enable us to seek deeper and seek the higher. In the third verse, he's criticizing the pursuit of pleasure,
means relationships. Not relationships per se, but as the goal of life. It's very natural at a certain age to be attracted to another being, another person's body. It's very natural. But what he's criticizing is to just stay in that. If there is that attraction, if there's that want to be with somebody else, then they must do it in a dharmic way in the institution of marriage. Why? Because marriage makes us go beyond the body. You cannot be married with a person for such a long time and just be in the body. You will have to go beyond your body. You'll have the children's body. You'll have to go beyond your own mind, your own likes and dislikes. You'll have to go beyond your intellect, your own desires. And that's what marriage is about. It's about tyaga, it's about sacrifice. You learn to sacrifice your individuality for something greater. That's the purpose of marriage. The purpose of marriage is not the pursuit of pleasure, but the place to learn how to sacrifice individuality for a greater good. Because this paves the way later on for the ego to be sacrificed for the sake of the self. So here in these 3 verses, he gives very, very clear purposes for why we pursue certain things. It's okay to pursue them, but as long as they are done with this purpose in mind, the purpose of seeking. And so he says everything tied to seeking Govinda. What is seeking Govinda? Govinda is nothing but the Atman, the self, that pure Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. It is seeking the self, realizing the self. Or if you want, you can also see Govinda as a form of God, as a form of Bhagavan Krishna. But it is realizing our true purpose in life. And so he keeps saying, seek Govinda, and he calls us fools because he keeps repeating this, but we don't get it. And we saw that fool is somebody who focuses on the outer and lower, right? F-O-O-L, focuses on outer and lower. Whenever we focus on things that are outer to the self, the body, the mind, intellect, when we focus on things that are much lower, that's called fool. The purpose of life is to wake up and to realize the self. And that is its fulfillment. That's the only time we will really be fulfilled. There is no peace in the world. Peace lies in God. So now we're going to move on today to verse number 4, and we'll see more of that. So verse number 4, I'll chant and then you can repeat. Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam Tatvajivitamatishaya chapalam Vidhi vyadhyabhimanagrastam Lokam shokahatam cha samastam. We'll chant it together. Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam Tatvajivitamatishaya chapalam Vidhi vyadhyabhimanagrastam Lokam shokahatam cha samastam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. So the caption for this verse is, uncertainty is certain. So what does he bring here? Nalini dala gata jala. Jala means water. Gata. Gata, that water coming from the dala, petal of a lotus. So the water that's on the petal of a lotus, ati taralam, it's extremely uncertain. Means it could go anytime. You never know when it's going to fall, when the water is going to hit the leaf. You never know when the water is going to go away from the leaf. It's absolutely uncertain. Tatvat, in the same way, jivita, our lives, atishayat chapalam, are greatly unstable. Vidhi, he says, may you know and understand, vyadhi abhimana grasta, that our lives are consumed by abhimana, conceit, and vyadhi, disease. Lokam shokahatam, this world is shokahatam, riddled with sorrow. Samastam, this entire world is riddled with sorrow. Therefore, bhaja Govinda, seek Govinda, seek Govinda. So it goes like this. The water drop playing on a lotus petal has an extremely uncertain existence. So also is life ever unstable. Understand that the very world is consumed by disease and conceit and is riddled with pangs. So sometimes when we read Vedanta, sometimes you say, why is Adi Shankaracharya ji making us feel so sad? All he's trying to do is to turn our attention within. Remember, the Shastras, the scriptures, always speak out of love. If they're criticizing something, it's really that they're examining it and they're really bringing our attention to it. I've given you this example before. If we are ants and we see a pile of salt, will we ever hope to find sweetness in salt? It looks exactly like sugar. It's white, it's powdery, it's a pile of salt. But if we're all ants going to that pile of salt and just hoping that some sweetness will come out of it, what happens? Sweetness will never come out. We'll be disappointed because there's no sweetness in salt, right? So by God's grace, a guru will come and say, I know what you want. I know you want sweetness. Don't look in salt, look in sugar. Look in sugar and that's where you'll find it. And Adi Shankaracharya ji is saying the exact same thing. You're looking for joy, you're looking for peace. Don't look at it in the world. It's not there. It's like finding sweetness in salt. You won't get it. You go look in God. Turn your attention towards God. Turn your attention towards the self. You will find it. This shift is what he's making us try to do. But in order to do that, we kind of have to come away from that salt. We have to kind of really look at that salt to want to leave it and go to sugar. So we do that by means of examining. How does he examine it? He says our existence is extremely uncertain. We think that we're going to be around for a while, but we've seen in our lives so many things come and go. Hurricanes come and go, pandemics, viruses, right? Floods and storms, all kinds of things come and people go. All kinds of disasters strike and people go. And this is uncertain. Sometimes we're never forewarned. We don't know. Sometimes it just happens. It just happens. Anything can happen. And so he says life is extremely uncertain like that. Anytime, anybody can go. Anytime, anything can happen to anyone. So it's always like we're living on the edge. What's going to happen next? And he says, know that this life is riddled with disease. And that we clearly very much see now, right? So much. How long will it stay? When will it go? Will it ever go? Or will this be a new thing that we will have to deal with? It's riddled with so much disease. And it's not only that, so much conceit, so much pride that people have, sometimes the feeling of being better than other people, feeling superior, feeling the ones that were in control and we know everything. There's conceit, there's disease, there's all kinds of things. And when you look around, there's a lot of sorrow. There's a lot of sorrow, and sometimes it's so hard to find peace. But how can you find peace? Everywhere we look, everywhere we go, there's some disturbing news happening. And so we live in this kind of world, and sometimes we wonder, where is peace? Well, how do you find that peace? Our lives are never ending. Something happens, you think we're okay, another thing else, another thing will come, and then another thing will come, and then another thing will come. And we're hoping to just take a breath, just breathe. But it becomes so hard. You know why? Because the nature of this world is change. In Sanskrit, the word for world is jagat. Jagat means jayate, gacchati, tishtati, iva. Means it's born, it will go, and it stays just for a bit. That's how we describe the world. It's born, it goes, it stays just for a bit. When something is constantly changing, constantly moving, how do you expect to find rest in that? You won't. What we will find is rest stops. Like when you're traveling, there's a rest stop for gas or for food. You'll find these rest stops, but you won't find rest. The traveling jiva will never find rest. Rest only comes in the realm of God. So what Adi Shankaracharya is telling us is, this is life. You want something greater, you want something more noble, more beautiful, then look in the right place. Turn within and you will find rest. You will find peace. You will find beauty. There's a way to live life in peace. I'll share with you this story. It's very nice. And it makes you think a lot about how people live their lives. There was this country. They had a very peculiar constitution, very peculiar one, that whoever becomes king will become king for 5 years. Then after that, they will be ferried across the river to the wild forest and be given to the wild forest. And this was the law of the land. And so you would wonder who would want to be king. But certain people thought, okay, we'll make a change. Something will happen. We can try. And so the first king came. And this first king was just indulging in pleasure. Is so overwhelmed by this kingdom, so spent all years just indulging in pleasure, very, very carefree, and said, okay, when the 5th year comes, we'll see what happens. And sure enough, the 5th year came, and he had to be ferried across to the wild forest. And so the boatman took him in the boat, ferried him across the wild forest, and he was eaten, and he was gone, just like that. And the next king came. Now this second king was so afraid because he knew after 5 years, he'll be fed to the wild forest. So he lived in fear. He lived in fear, all his worries constantly in his mind, false imaginations coming up again and again and again, constantly trembling. And so after the 5th year, he had to go. And so the boatman took him in the boat, and even before making it to the other side, he faints. He just faints out of fear. He's just, anxious. He panics. He says, I can't do this. And he's gone. Now the third king comes up and says, I will make a change. I will do something. But after 2.5 years, let me enjoy this kingdom for 2.5 years. Let me enjoy. And then after that, I'll make a change. So 2.5 years passed. But after that, he didn't know what to do. He said, where do I start? What do I do? How do I do everything? So he was just completely lost because he said, it's too late. And so after 5 years again, it was his time to go to the other side. And the boatman took him And he was just so scared. He jumped in the ocean. He said, I can't take it. I can't do it. He jumped in the ocean. And so like this, many kings came and went. Finally, one king came and he had his term. And during his term, everybody was very well taken care of. He followed his dharma. He did everything properly. Everything was in great shape. After 5 years, he himself said, okay, prepare the boat. I'm ready to go. And everyone was shocked. Why is he so ready to go? You know, where is he going? And so he gets into the boat and very, very calm, very much at peace. And the boatman said, I have never seen a king like you. Aren't you afraid? Aren't you scared? Don't you know what will happen? He said, no, I'm not afraid. The boatman said, why not? He said, do you know that when I was king, what I did was I sent some of my people to the wild forest. I had them clear out the forest, create a small kingdom, put together a palace, rooms, everything that's required, so that after 5 years, I could go and live there and be at peace. That's one of the things I did during my 5 years. And so this boatman was just stunned. And the king went happily, and he lived fully. And so this is the message of Adi Shankaracharya ji. Some of us are like the first king who were just so much in pleasure, so much engrossed in pleasure. Well, we forget the goal of life, that we forget everything. And we're so much engrossed in pleasure, it weakens our whole system. It weakens our senses. We grow old, we grow fat, and then so much disease comes to us. Some of us live in fear because we have not prepared, we have not planned, we have not thought things through. So we live in fear. What's going to happen? How am I going to handle it? How will it be? So there's a constant fear haunting us. And that's very hard, to be living in fear and anxiety. The third one, some of us are like that, living in procrastination. Yeah, we'll do it, but we'll do it later. We'll do it later. Oh, well, later might come sooner than we think. And so we procrastinate everything. And we don't know how to deal with things when they come. But some live in wisdom. And a person who lives in wisdom knows and realizes the limitations of the world. They understand that the world will not give them what they seek. And so they invest their time well. They invest their time in the art of self-development, the art of self-purification. And so they grow and they evolve. And they become these people who can deal with absolutely anything that comes in their way. And because they live with such wisdom, they are ever calm and at peace. So anything can come, but it won't shake them. This is what Adi Shankaracharya ji wants us to do. Life is going to be very uncertain. It is very uncertain. So many ups and downs will come. We will not have the composure, the equanimity to deal with it if we are not seeking truth, if we are not surrounded by satsang, if we are not surrounded by study, we will not be able to deal with it. Vedanta is almost like a vaccine, if you would say. Samsara is like this continuous thing coming through. And Vedanta is that which gives us immunity to be able to take anything very well. That is the strength of a seeker. The strength of the seeker is to be able to look at the world, understand the world, but yet accept it and deal with it very peacefully, because they know that there's something much deeper to strive for. That is Govinda, and that is the self. So this is the essence of the 4th verse. Now we're coming to the 5th verse. Some people might still have that doubt. Why seek now? I'm still a little bit young, I'm still a little bit young. Why do all of this now? Why get so much into this now? In the 5th verse, he brings to us another reality about the world. So I will go ahead and chant and then you can follow. Yavat vittoparjana saktaha tavan nija parivaro raktaha Paschat jivati jar dehe vartam kopi na pritchati gehe. Together. Yavat vitto parjana saktaha tavan nija parivaro raktaha paschat jivati jar dehe vartam kopi na pritchati gehe. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Yavat, as long as Vitta Uparjana Saktaha, as long as one has the Saktaha, ability, Uparjana, to earn wealth. As long as one has the ability to earn wealth, Tavat, so long, Nija Parivaraha Raktaha, so long is your family or dependents attached to you. Raktaha is attached to you. Paschat, after that, Jivati jar dehe, when your body, dehe, in your body, when it's jar infirm. Jivati, when you live in an infirm body, vartam kopi na prichati gehe. Nobody, kopi na prichati, cares to speak to you. Vartam, even a word in your own house. Therefore, seek Govinda, seek Govinda. As long as there's the ability to earn and save, so long are all your dependents attached to you. Later on, when you come to live with an old, infirm body, no one at home cares to speak even a word with you. And therefore, the tagline for this verse is, drop the world before the world drops you. The world will drop us. It's a fact. It's a real fact. Now, think about this example. When one is old and infirm, and as long as they have wealth, the whole family is close to them. And that's why some older people also, they hold on to their wealth and assets, because otherwise everybody will leave them. So they hold on to their wealth, they hold on to their assets, and they hold on to it. Because if they let go, nobody will be there. Nobody will be there. And those very children, those very family that you helped, that you were there for, even they will leave. This is a sad truth of the world. The sad truth of the world is that as long as we have the ability and capacity to fulfill someone's need, they will be around us. When that capacity is over, they will leave us. And it's true. Somebody who has lots of money will have a lot of friends. But if they lose some money, they will lose some friends. Someone who has a very high social status, if they lose that, they will lose their friends. You take a model a super model. When she's very young, very beautiful, everybody's around her. Everybody wants her picture. But the minute she grows old, nobody wants her to be even in the back page of the magazine. Nobody wants her. She's no use anymore. Or you take an athlete. He's so great at sports, so wonderful. He gets into an accident. Nobody wants him anymore. Life is like that. When we do not have what people need, they will also drop us. And if you look at our relationships also, there may be some which are genuine, but a lot of them are very cause-based. A lot of them are very much, we're in the same school. So when you were in the same school back then, you were friends with some people, but you changed schools, that would have also broken. Or you have the same job or in the same company with someone. The jobs would have changed, that relationship would have also broken. Same gym, you're friends with somebody, you change gyms, you change locations, that also relationship will go. So our relationships are like that. And even our family, as parents, even the children will leave us at some point in time. They will grow older, they will be on their own, and at some point in time, they will leave us. And when they do, that can be very painful. If we're not prepared to grow old age can be very painful. When we're much younger, we wish we had a lot more time. 24 hours, we say, oh my gosh, I wish I had more hours in the day. I wish I had more hours in the day. But for somebody who's growing older, 24 hours takes a long time to pass. It's not that quick. It's hard. It's hard, and they, they can't move so much. They can't go to so many places. And if you feel like maybe they can talk to somebody, nobody wants to talk to them. Nobody wants to talk to them. This one father told his son, let's talk about life. So the son sat him down. He said, okay, Dad, what do you want to know? Nobody wants to listen to older people, because that is such a sad thing. They have so much wisdom to share, but we are so, rushing here, rushing there, caught up in so many things. Oh, Vartam Kopi, nobody's there to talk to them. So we would think that when we grow older, we'll have people to talk to. We think that maybe we'll go here and there. No, old age is a very tough spot. And everyone will leave us. Children will leave us. At some point in time, the partner will leave us. Whether we leave or they leave first, we don't know. But if we don't know how to be independent, if we haven't dropped the world before the world drops us, life can be very difficult. Some people are so scared of this. So some people who, will grow older, they want like sound around them all the time. There has to be sound around them all the time, because they cannot be alone. Or sometimes old people, they don't want to retire. They want to work till they're 80, 85. And when they do that, they stunt the whole growth of the organization or the place, because they still want to hold on to position. They still want to hold on to power. The young ones cannot grow. And this happens. When we're older, it should be, we should be in a place where people don't ask, when are you going to retire? They should ask, why are you retiring? We'll miss you. Right? But sometimes they hold on to that because they don't know how to be alone. So this verse is telling us, wake up, because at some point in time, everybody will let go of us. But we have to know how to be on our own. What do you mean by how to be on our own? We have to know how to find joy being with ourselves. Right now, the source of our joy may be, children or something external, something completely external to us. But when those things are not there, then what? If we are able to be alone, but not lonely, find joy in scriptures, find joy in name of God, find joy in taking a walk by ourselves, find joy in these little things that we can do alone. If we can learn how to be alone, then life will be very beautiful. Growing old will not be so painful. People say, live like you're going to die. Well, none of us really do that. But at least we can live like we're going to grow old. And the more independent we can be, the more beautiful and peaceful our life can be. Those that tend to be dependent, what happens is they get so upset because their expectations aren't met. Of course, there is that expectation of a parent that when I grow older, my children will take care of me. Of course, there is that. And it's reasonable. It's reasonable to expect that, yes, the children will take care, but that doesn't always happen. It doesn't always happen. And as much as we raise our children or want our children to think that way, it doesn't always work out. So instead of being in that expectation or living in that expectation, why didn't this child call me? Why didn't they invite me here? Why didn't they want me to do this? Why didn't they want me to do that? Instead of having our minds in that, let that go. Let that go and learn to be independent. Learn to be on our own. So that as we grow, we are fine. We are fine. Look at the tree. The tree is a very, very beautiful example. The tree is so poised, so strong. It knows that birds will come. Birds will also make a nest. Birds will also have babies, lots of babies, and lots of birds. But at the same time, the birds will also go. But the tree just remains. Birds will come, let them come. Birds will go, let them go. But the tree just remains. This is what this verse means. That drop the world before the world drops us. In this example, there's this one older man. He had a hearing aid and there was something wrong with this hearing aid. And so he went to the doctor to get it fixed. So he said, doctor, please get this fixed. And so the doctor fixed it. And he said, come back in 1 month. And in 1 month's time, then we will see, make sure everything's okay. So he went home. And then after 1 month, he came to the doctor. And the doctor said, how is your hearing aid? He said, it's fine. He said, your family must be so happy. Now you can hear. He said, I didn't tell my family. The doctor said, why didn't you tell your family you can hear? He said, because I already changed my will 3 times. I want to see what else more is going to happen. This is how they feel. This is how it is. It's a sad fact, but it is the truth. So in this, we should know that there are relationships in the world which are there are some beautiful relationships. I'm not saying all of these relationships are like this. There are some that are meaningful and beautiful. But the best thing we can do is be independent. And the next best thing we can do is make people independent of us. Because sometimes what we want to do is we want people to depend on us so that we have security, so that they'll come to us, so that they'll be with us. But that's not what life is. Life is about being independent and making others also be independent. Because we are born alone, we also have to go alone. And that's why one of the most beautiful relationships in our culture is the guru and student, guru and shishya. Right? The guru is not there because they want anything. They are already independent. And the best thing is the Guru makes you independent. They want you to be independent. So from that relationship, we can learn a lot. So in this verse, he says, drop the world before the world drops you. So what do? We focus on making ourselves independent, seeking deeper, spending time in study, spending time in satsang. Gurudev has a very beautiful quote. He says, if you're miserable in your own company, then why should you inflict it on somebody else? Why let anybody else suffer? So learn to be on our own. Now, the next verse. Somebody might doubt that. We'll just see a little bit of the next verse and then more we will see next week. Somebody might doubt that, what if my family, I think my family will always be there. I think they'll always be there. I don't think they'll really leave me. Adi Shankaracharya ji says, think again. So verse number 6. Yavat pavano nivasati dehe tavat pritchati kushalam gehe. Gatavati vayau deha paye. Bharya bibhyati tasmin kaye. Yavat pavano nivasati dehe tavat pritchati kushalam gehe. Gatavati vayau deha paye. Bharya bibhyati tasmin kaye. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. So the tagline here is, everybody dies, nobody dies. First line says, everybody dies, but nobody dies. What does it say here? Yavat, as long as pavana, the breath, nivasati dehi, as long as the breath dwells in your body, tavat, so long, prichati kushalam gehe, so long people will inquire about your welfare. Gatavati vayo, when that breath leaves, deha apaye, when that body decays, bharya, even your wife or your husband, bibhyati tasmin kaye, even your wife or your husband fears that very same body. So therefore, seek Govinda, seek Govinda. What does it say? As long as there dwells breath in the body, so long they inquire of your welfare at home. Once the breath leaves the body, leaves and the body decays, even the wife or husband fears that same body. So we might think that, but our family is always there and our family will be there. When that person dies, somebody dies in the household, it could be anybody dies. As long as that person has breath, as long as that person is breathing, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, we call that person as someone that we love, someone that's dear to us. But when that breath goes, what happens? That body becomes it. Take it away. Even we don't want that body to be there. Even we don't want that body to be there. We're like, when is the body going to go out of the house? We don't want the smell of the body. We don't want the sight of the body. We don't want the weight of the body. We don't want anything to do with the body. So we might think that, no, everybody's here for us. They'll be there for us till the end. At the end, nobody wants to be near our body. Once that whole breath is out, that's it. So he says, think again, think again, think about your life and how you're living it. Nobody will be there until the end. We have to face ourselves. We have to be able to be by ourselves. So the best thing we can do is prepare, plan, and seek, so that we can live a more peaceful life. Today we will stop here. If I go into this, I won't be able to finish. So next week we will take number 6 in more depth. I'll pause for any questions or any thoughts that you want to share about these verses.